Hello, all the crazy people out there. My name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games, and welcome back to making 3D wizard Zelda-like games in Game Maker. All right. So last time I set up a bunch of visual effects and also video settings, and well, the game renders all right. It's got lighting, it's got skyboxes, it's got all those fun things, and particles too. Everyone likes particles. Today, I am going to take a bit of a sideways step from like visual effects, from the visual effects like things that I've been doing recently, and implement a similar settings object to what I did last time, and that's going to be an audio settings object. This is probably not going to be quite as involved as last time. I guess I'll leave this here. I'll probably do similar things for like audio settings. This is going to be considerably less involved. So let me go into the system stuff and then clone the video settings object, and I can say group audio settings, and that can be something in the same vein. And we can update all of the references to names. We have an audio singleton-like object. And instead of keeping track of things like resolution and frame rate and whatever, I'm sure there's going to be more later, I can say instead self.volume main is going to be 1 for 100%. I can say self.volume come on, what am I thinking of? Music can be 1 for 100%, self.volume effects can be 1, self.volume what would it be? I often go with a like an ambient sounds volume for sound effects that aren't like directly caused by things in the game world but are just like playing ambiently in the background. I can next create a bunch of accessors and mainly mutators, but I guess I can also create a bunch of accessors for these 4 things. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to really want to add any more audio settings other than volumes. Maybe, but I'm not imagining so for a follow along game. So static set volume main. And we can do this 4 different times. So volume music, volume effects, and volume ambient. And I told you this wouldn't be a very complicated video, but that will be that initial setup. And I guess in keeping tradition, I can always... I guess I can include accessors for all these things. Like this. Again, Game Maker really doesn't have any way of enforcing object-oriented programming and variable access like this, but we can do it ourselves just for fun. So that's going to be some getters and setters. We're also going to have save, file video settings. We can also say file audio settings. It pleases me that the words video and audio in English are the same number of characters, but that is essentially the same way of writing the audio settings to the file that we did in video settings, and we can attempt to load those back in the same way. Come on, what am I doing? In the same way that we handled video not too long ago. And there doesn't have to be any set resolution, set full screen, set frame rate. Because nothing Actually, is that going to be true? That might not be true. Because I think I will want to, like, eventually set the volumes of, like, the audio buses, the gains on audio emitters and stuff like that. Anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. Let's just make sure that the data is working first. So, when I do this, I guess I can set something. I can call things that say things like audio dot set volume main. Wasn't there a fourth one? Okay, so I accidentally renamed that. Cool. We can say set volume main to like 1 or set volume main to like 0.5. I'm not expecting this to not work. Really, this is just... I guess I would say this is really a test to make sure that saving and loading is working correctly. And speaking of which, I'm also going to want to call self.save after each of these. Right? Alright, so let us hit the, what is it, F2 key to set the main volume to 50%. And I can end the game, and I can, let's just, for now, I could go and open the JSON file, but I don't feel like finding it. Show, let's just print out the result of the audio struct down in the console after it loads, assuming it loads. If it doesn't, I'll have to debug, and I don't really like doing that. Fail to open file, options video.json for buffer load. Okay, so I guess the video file does not exist because nothing's changed. So volume ambient, we still have the unknown built-in variable trying to be serialized. That's odd. I don't know what GameMaker's doing there. Volume main is 50%, volume music, volume FX. Okay, so that, I think we can call that a victory. It's not getting a lot of testing, but that's because it's really just setting variables and getting variables, and I don't think there's much space for that to go wrong. Added some audio settings. So now we can start to get into somewhat more interesting things. I did mention audio. I can't ever remember the name of this set master gain. Can I say -1 to have this apply to all emitters? Oh, it takes a listener, not an emitter. Okay, well, I can just set the index to 0, and that might be good enough. And I'm unfortunately going to have to actually remember how emitters work. I think I can just say audio create emitter or whatever, and like play sound on an emitter. Okay, these are used for positional sound, but I don't think that'll be accounted for as long as you don't like mess with the emitter's position or the listener's position or anything like that, right? So something that I forgot I can do, which I'm tempted to do here, but I think I actually will want emitters for other things later on anyway, is you can set the gain of entire audio groups. Audio groups are like texture groups, but for sound. I really have not messed around a lot with them, but I like vaguely know how they work. And the manual is reminding me that I can say audio group set gain, so I could put like all like sound effects or ambient effects or whatever in their own audio group and just set the gain on that. But I think I will actually want an audio emitter for each of these sound types because that will allow me to do other things, such as play audio effects on them. And audio buses, I think, are also part of that, correct? Audio effects and buses. The manual really isn't organized very well for this, is it? It feels like they're just tacking on pages without any real organization. But anyway, yeah, so you can attach a bus to an emitter, and that's how you would do that. I remember that. I made a video on that once. You'd think I would have a longer memory for these things than I do. Anyway. Audio create emitter, audio. Come on. It's one of those two. That doesn't take any arguments, right? That just exists. Static emitter fx. So I'm gonna make these static so that the emitters are just created once, basically, on the first time this is constructed, and then if the player like resets the audio settings, or if the player like reloads the audio settings from the file or something like that, you won't have emitters created without being destroyed, and I don't have to keep track of them later on or anything like that. So set volume main. This is going to be for audio set master gain on emitter music, and the gain is going to be that. The master gain is going to be or the main gain, or whatever we're calling it. Just pick one and go with it. Is going to be the main volume times the self.volume music. Can this be self dot, or since it's static, does it have to not be? Can't remember. Oh, you know what a better way of doing this would be? To instead just have a single apply function that does this for all of the emitters, and then we can just call self.apply. I had something similar to that in the video settings, didn't I? Which I've apparently forgotten about since then. And of course, then when we load in the settings, we can say audio.apply. All right, is there anything else? That's gonna set the gain on emitters. I did say I want to include audio effects in this game because that's a thing that's been added to GameMaker recently that I can mess around with. I don't know yet how I want that to work, but when it comes to playing sound on an emitter, there is audio play sound. Oh, I was just looking at this too, and I already can't remember. Audio play sound on, that's what it is. I thought it was something like that. And then after that, I believe this, I believe everything like audio related just works the same as it did before. Audio emitters also allow you to do positional sound, like 3D sound, which most people probably would be tempted to do in a game such as this, but I am a stick in the mud when it comes to positional sound. I hate positional sound. It doesn't matter like how good everyone else thinks like left and right stereo audio is. Whenever it happens, I always think like there's something wrong with one of my ears or there's something wrong with my headphones. I don't like it. And I might be able to be persuaded to include positional sound in this project if like enough people get on my case about that. But assuming that doesn't happen, I will not be playing with 3D positional sound. Not to say that it can't be useful, and like despite the fact that I don't like it, sometimes I do find it useful in a game to have like, if there's a monster over the hill to the left, to have 3D positional sound playing on in my left ear, which can be helpful, but that doesn't mean I like it. All right, so moving on from that, and I guess we can I accidentally unchecked both of those. We can say apply the audio volumes to emitters. And from there, it shouldn't be too difficult a matter to implement, for example, static, and we can make this play. In the past, and often in my own projects, I call this like play SC, play sound effect. For those who don't know, I borrow some audio terminology from like the way RPG Maker handles audio and background music and music effects and that kind of thing. I usually split up my sound in games between sound effects SE and background music BGM. I sort of, without really thinking about it, called it FX up here at the top. So just to keep it consistent, we can say play FX equals function sound. With this, we can say audio play sound on, and this is going to give us the emitter ID. So this is going to be emitter FX. The sound ID can be the sound that we're playing on. Loops is going to be false. Priority, I'll make that an optional parameter. Gain is going to be, I guess, another optional parameter. Offset is going to be 0 because if I want to play sound from an offset, that's probably not going to happen very often, and if it does at all, I'll write some special code to make that happen. Pitch can be another optional parameter, and the listener mask I won't bother with, at least not now. I don't think I'll have a need for any like listeners besides the default one. Let's see. So there's the sound, priority, gain, and pitch, and I guess we can return that audio instance. I am curious though. For static variables, are you allowed to say self dot? Because you are with methods. Obviously, I do it all the time, but I don't feel like static variables are. It would be helpful if they got the syntax highlighting like within static methods, but I'll just do it. And if it crashes later, then it crashes later. I can also say static stop fx. We can say audio play, audio stop sound. And that can be either a sound effect instance or an audio asset. There's going to be the matter of like ambient sounds. And that's going to be the same, but it's going to use the ambient sound emitter. Actually, you know what? Since it doesn't matter which type of sound any of these are, that can just be like named stop. And that can be the end of the story. And there is, of course, the matter of background music. By the way, some ambient sounds may need to loop. So I guess I'll make that an optional parameter for the play ambient method as well. One-off sound effects will not need to loop. That would get rather cacophonous rather quickly. Lastly, there is the matter of playing background music. That's going to be a little different. So if I say play BGM, background music will definitely need to loop. So that will be set to true. Priority, gain, pitch. I feel like background music is always going to have the same priority, so there's no point parameterizing that. I'll make that a macro in a minute. And I'll also give these default values in a minute. These getters don't need a parameter. That wouldn't hurt anything, but it would just like... It's unnecessary to have there. Having background music like fade in and out is kind of its own thing. I wonder if I should just like to-do that until later on when I actually have music to add to the game. This recording's only going on 24 minutes. I can do a little more here. All right. So this is going to be some methods to play sound. All right. In the macros code file, macros, we can say macro sound priority default. We can make that 100. We can say macro sound priority music can be, we can give this a higher priority. I'll give this 200. Sound priority in GameMaker is arbitrary, and it's just as long as a number is bigger than another number, then the sound will have or not have priority. I go with a scale of 100 being like the default priority, and then less important sounds can have a lower priority, like far off sound effects. I guess when it comes to 3D positional sound, I don't mind attenuating volume at a distance. I just don't like it when it pans. I should probably specify that. It is rather important that sound will attenuate at a distance, and that when like something explodes in the distance, it doesn't sound like it's exploding right in front of your face. Anyway, back to priority. I'll give music a higher priority because people generally like it when the background music isn't interrupted. Some like old video game consoles, that would be the case. And like when an attack in Pokemon lands or whatever in Pokemon Red and Blue, then the background music would stop playing because the thing could only like process so much audio data at a time. But that is not a problem for us. Lower priority sounds, and I don't know if I want to like name them right now or if I want to name them when I see how the rest of the game comes together. But like things that the player does will have a higher priority sound than things that like enemies do or whatever. However, when it comes to the defaults, we can say sound priority default. Oh, I guess ambient sounds can also have a... I'll give these 50. I'll give these a priority of 50 because they're not as important as some other things. Loop can be false by default. Gain can be 1, pitch can be 1, so that's play it at full volume, and the default pitch. The same thing can happen for BGM. And all right, lastly, I do have where is it? Base Project 2D. My like test music track, which I've been using for ages. Sounds. All right, and also the coin sound effect, which I guess I can use to test like regular sound effects as well. BGM idle with accordions. I can call this BGM test, I suppose. And I'll use that to test music. Let's set that to compressed. Because it is music. And if I want to, in the create event, play BGM test, this is going to require that I actually include the game's audio in the video, and that's going to require that I do a little bit of extra editing, but yeah, that's the music. I hope you like it. You're probably going to be hearing a lot of it while I'm testing this. And it loops. Okay, after a couple seconds of silence. Let's see. If I also add SE_coin as another test sound effect, SE test, and we'll leave that as compressed, not streamed. And if I were to, for example, if keyboard check pressed VK_tab audio.play SE, play FX, I'm sorry. And this can be SE_test. So that's going to play with the volume of the different audio types. I can say maybe we've got set volume main, set volume FX if I wanted to, and set volume music. And we can assign these to other function keys. So F1, F2 is taken, 3, 4, F5, and F6. And I should be able to now test the volume of different sound effects. Okay, this actually makes more sense than I thought it was going to. Alright, so that's full volume. It was actually at 50% because I never reset it from when I set it to 50% at the beginning, apparently. Okay, so that's the coin sound effect when I hit the tab key, which also brings up this on the side. I am not hearing a difference in volume when I do that. Let me see if I can hear a difference in, it was F3 and F4 that I was hitting, right? I think it was. Okay. when I set the background music volume to a lower value, when I hit F6, it definitely goes down, but it does not when I do it for sound effects. If I set them both to a half, then the music volume is much lower. Am I just like... Oh, okay, so I'm... Wow, how did I not see that? This needs to be... I just copied and pasted stuff. That's how that happened. And we should be able to test the background music volume now. Alright. I still feel like that's not doing what I want it to. We're all setting the correct values here. Wait a minute, I'm still saying audio set master gain, not like audio set audio emitter gain is the one I want. Okay. Yes, that would definitely cause problems like I was hearing. Okay, good thing I didn't just let that go because that would have been really weird to find later on. Okay. So we can play with the master gain. It worked for music just because they both happen to coincidentally have an index of 0. That's kind of the drawback of index-based things in just computing in general, because sometimes you accidentally get edge cases like that. Let's see. Sound effect volume. Alright, now it's been reduced. Definitely. And... Alright, I can do it for the volume for the background music as well. Okay, so that all works. Test sounds is what that's going to be. Next, I suppose being able to fade background music is going to be nice. And that can be an instance of a playing sound or an audio index, I suppose. We're gonna fade it. We're gonna fade a sound to a target volume after a certain number of time, and we can say audio set sound gain, audio sound gain. Boy, the audio related functions are really not named consistently. I guess audio sound gain makes more sense than like audio, like set master gain instead of just calling it audio master gain like you might expect. But anyway, audio sound gain. The index can be the sound that we're passing in. The level can be target volume, and the time can be time. I want to say this is in seconds, but I'm just gonna double check. Time is in milliseconds. Okay. I love how some things are in seconds and some things are in milliseconds. That really does not make things confusing at all. I'm gonna call this ms for milliseconds, or I guess I could spell it out instead of just time. And that way, I remember when I look at this function signature whether it's in seconds or milliseconds. And I really wish that that was just a thing that people did when they wrote computer libraries dealing with time, instead of just calling the parameter time or something generic like that, which could be ambiguous. Anyway, so lastly, the last thing I'm going to test is, let's say F7 and F8, we can say audio.fade. We can fade BGM test to let's say a level of 0 after how many milliseconds? Let's say 2 seconds, so 2000 milliseconds, and then F8 can fade it to a level of 1. And I actually will add a third another function here, which is fade and stop, and this is going to fade out a sound, or fade a sound to a target volume. The target volume is going to be 0, because when you fade something out and stop it, you don't ever fade it to anything besides 0. Fade out and stop, perhaps. And we can also... Can I just do a little call later? And The period can be milliseconds. The units can be time source units. Okay, it's going to be milliseconds divided by 1,000. Units seconds. The callback, I'm going to need to, because GameMaker doesn't have closures to the chagrin of some and to the delight of me, I'm going to, I think, have to say, we're going to bind a method, and it's going to be, like, sound. It's going to be the sound. And the function is going to be audio stop sound. And that's going to be the local variable, or the instance variable belonging to the anonymous struct, which has been passed to the callback function. I think that works with call later. It works in some other places. I'm not sure. I think it works with call later. Anyway, so we're gonna be able to fade the BGM in and out, and then we're also going to, with F9, fade and stop, and then after that, if I try to bring it back, it will no longer be playing, so you just won't hear it. Alright, I think this is going to work. I think this is all I really need when it comes to sound now. So, what was it? I've already forgotten. F7 and F8. Alright, that faded it out. That faded it back in. And that faded it out and hopefully stopped it, and it did not crash. And if I try to fade it in or out again, it's not going to work because the sound is no longer playing. Okay, cool. That actually worked on the first try. I don't know, aside from using the wrong variable in a few places, I don't actually know if anything went wrong in this video. That's nice. I like it when that happens. I did spend a few minutes reading the manual, though. What is this? Audio fade and fade stop controls. So that's nice. I tell you, it's really nice that I'm using GameMaker in the modern day and that we can just say, like, audio sound gain, and there's, or audio play sound on, rather, and it takes an optional argument for the gain. Because that's a recent addition, and it used to, you used to have to set the gain of sound effects manually and that kind of thing, and it was really annoying. I'm really glad that we have call later and that I can just say stop this sound effect after that amount of time has expired, and I can just do this, and I don't have to like create a bunch of temporary variables and set a timer or anything annoying like that. In the olden days of GameMaker, doing this kind of thing would have been like 5 times as much code, and it really wasn't a lot of fun. Anyway, I'm going to end this off here. I'm going to make this 0.7. This is going to be the week 7 release. I can say that I've got both of these done, and I can archive the cards, which I sometimes don't remember to do. Where's the archive button? There's the archive button. Alright, how nice. And that's going to do it for today. I've got remaining on basic 3D rendering depth of field. I kind of have maybe not decided that I like that as much as I thought I was going to. It might end up looking weird. I think I'm going to hold off on doing that. And fake shadows, I've decided that I'd like to have an actual player object in the game before I do that, because it'll look a little bit weird and it'll probably be a little bit harder to test if I just want to have a fake shadow like following the player around when there is no player. That's probably not going to be the easiest development time, so I won't do that. Okay, I think next time, instead of moving on to more cards, I'm actually going to like evaluate where I am. I'm going to do like a milestone, like a sprint milestone video, and I'm going to clean up some code. I was slapping myself in the face when I was editing the last video because I said I was going to clean up a bunch of my code, and all I really did was put some things in folders in the asset browser. Which, like, that was important, yeah, because I'd like to have my various, like, files a little bit organized, but it also wasn't really, like, most of what needed to get done. So, let's leave the leave the end screen on the game again so that we can see progress. I'm gonna end this off here. My name is Michael. I like Wizards and Dragons and making games. If you want to see the code for this, look for the GitHub repository down in the video description. I try to post about 2 game dev videos a week, one let's make a game like this, and one tutorial, usually regarding the weirder 3D things you can do in GameMaker. I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute to the channel, links to that can be found in all the usual places. I recently added a new Patreon benefit where I will do some benchmarking of your game on different devices, should that be something that you need. I hope you all find this as fascinating as I do, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Army Armbuster, DJ Gibbles, Edward Holt, GameMaker, Gamer Player, Harold Gidry, Manta Ray, Project 103, Rowdy Coder, Syndra Larson, Squarecrow, VTroV, and Zenjament for supporting these videos. If you want to contribute to the channel, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.